The Solar Magna system has several planets, however, only one planet developed life. At the time of the appearance of the advanced Teridian Matanui, the planet's first magnet separated two planets, Aqua Magna and Bota Magna, and the life on the planet changed dramatically. Aqua Magna is a great ocean interrupted by chains of islands. I have placed all known islands on the new map. Some became spits of the islands of Matanui and Woyanui. On this map, you can see all the names. These islands were formed as markings of matter joining the newly formed moon, which are also a message to the inhabitants of Bara Magna and Aqua Magna about their origin. Almost all episodes of BIOVERSE posts are dedicated to the planet Aqua Magna. However, the other two planets have a lot of changes too. Speaking of Bota Magna, as I already said in the first episode, the native beings of the original planet are settled on it. The moon was equipped with resources, geography, and climate ideal for the fastest evolution of organisms. It is both not too aggressive that it slows down the evolution by extinctions, and not too comforting so that organisms stop changing. Not long enough had passed since the shattering to see any changes in these organisms, not more than 200 years at the time of Tokura's creation to be precise. Let's move on to Bara Magna. This planet is a huge desert, but its temperature varies greatly due to the lack of atmosphere, which is why it has large glaciers at the poles. As stated earlier, it houses the first complete reactor and the legs of the Great Spirit, modified into a megastructure also known as an observatory, which is about a kilometer high. The observatory is located in the crater of Aqua Magna, covering the reactor of the first component. It was created simultaneously with Kinyanui and performed the same process of forming its settlers, the Order of Matanui, consisting of Artakha, Axonn, and Agory. Their total number is less than 500 creatures. The Agory in my universe are a division of the matoran. In them I combine the images of the inhabitants of G1 Bara Magna and the Av matoran, but more on that another time. They combine matoran anatomy with adaptive armor. Instead of Matoran's Kanohi, they possess a mask of imitation as a defense mechanism. They are able to imitate one ability of any creature, a mask that they are aware of. During passive time, they imitate the work of Matoran's Kanohi to create ether. On the same planet, there is a personal guardian, the symbolic heart of Matanui, Axonn. He embodies information about the structure of the tissues of the Great Spirit, like skin, also known as dermis, force fields, and force networks, three-dimensional force fields, and so on. He possesses armor made of proto-steel, an impenetrable material consisting of dermis and force network. His body possesses two first component reactors, which makes him many times stronger than one or even two Towa. He possesses an indestructible halberd, Kanohi Road, that allows him to see the truth, and an indestructible shield that can fix himself in space by clinging to another body. And finally, Artakha. He has knowledge of Matanui, which brings us closest to the embodiment of Matanui consciousness on the Sphere's Magna system, at least of those beings that were born during the Great Cataclysm. He also has two reactors, and he spends all his energy on his transparent mask of creation and the gadgets he makes with it. He made weapons for Axonn, as well as an entire archive of ammunition and other gadgets, including a hammer, which is Artakha's extension of the mask of creation. It allows you to terraform entire continents or teleport matter in approximate order. In other words, more complex structure will lose their integrity during teleportation and will merge and mix with everything that teleports with them. Do not think that those worlds didn't interact. In fact, Artakha observes the planet Aqua Magna for assistance or surveillance purposes. His observatory not only contains a regular telescope, but also the ability to create astral projections of a being in other places. This skill at Artakha's disposal gave rise to many myths among the Matoran on Aqua Magna about the ghost of Matanui who could appear in the night once every few hundred days. He influenced the life of the Matoran universe directly. Artakha was extremely concerned about the critical damage to the two Towa, but more importantly, he understood that the taken body parts were taken for creating another torso, but given the great strength of the Towa's bodies, this body could put an end to the history of the Matoran universe. The Artakha decided to sabotage the assembly. He appeared as his astral projection in the laboratory of Nynrah Island, and concentrating all the energy of the projection, he managed to use the legendary masks at a distance to start a chain reaction and destroy the installation along with the body. What he did not expect was that this procedure would not destroy but rather progress the body until it gained consciousness. But Artakha did not see this. By that time, the astral projection had completely dissolved. A shuttle with two heavy equipment for the damaged Towa, exoskeletons under the name of Exotowa, was ready by that time. Exotowa could also operate autonomously. Artakha removed the first component reactors from himself and Axonn to place them in the suits. The shuttle itself was not protected from attacks, which turned out to be a big problem. Teridax Teridax noticed the man-made satellite through the telescope stolen from Tokura. He shot down the shuttle, and it fell on the Makuta base hidden in Odina Island. Artakha was unable to help. With the power of the ether alone, he is unable to use most instruments, and it takes weeks to generate reactors. During this time, Teridax kidnapped many matoran, whom he used as slaves on Nynrah. The Towa did not try to save them because they thought they were dead as many times before. Teridax used them as labor and also as the source of energy for the new artificial altar. After Teridax freed them from captivity, these matoran were given the title of Nynrah Ghosts. However, with this move, Teridax simply let the Towa acknowledge the defeat, using as many as 4 first component reactors, suits of extremely high-tech structures. He created a body capable of bypassing the Makuta gas to use the legendary masks at full power. The only one Teridax did not leave alive was Peruku, who with his presence constantly reminded him of Tokura and the tragedy that he had to endure in order to end up with only more losses in return. They brought his Kanohi to Tokura, after which he promised not to part with it until he finds a way to bring Peruka back to life. So all of Artakha's help worked exactly the opposite way to the planned. Simple sabotage became the main support of the Towa, and the auxiliary equipment for the Towa was appropriated by Teridax. With new powers, Teridax managed to create and control countless numbers of soulless bodies, the beasts without the Makuta inside. Their army was constantly growing. Teridax kept them on various islands of the Voyanui archipelago, sometimes even on Matanui. At the same time, Tokura and other Towa was searching for secret units and reduced the ranks of the army. The star of this raid was Tokura, who could use his blade to consume beasts so that Teridax could not use the remains to reanimate them. But we know that Tokura could not carelessly destroy hundreds of beasts with his blade. It still contained Krika's consciousness. The creature that was created to perceive the world was going crazy in the sensory deprivation prison without any outside information at all. Years passed by this routine. Krika had lost his mind. At the same time, from the entrainment of energy, the power of the blade's decay grew. So one blow was enough to completely disintegrate an entire warrior. But the space of a pocket dimension is unable to bend indefinitely. One day, Papa Nihu Reef was attacked by an entire army of beasts led by Makuta Seicha and Tendak. Tokura was the only one who noticed the approach from the Viserak island. He alone was able to stop many beasts, but it is because of this that the pocket dimension bursted. The blade began to distort, and Takura's autonomous defense system was triggered through the very potential of creation. The blade took the form of a Kanohi, and when he started to receive serious damage, he decided to put it on himself. The catastrophic mass of Krika would be enough to take control of any creature, and Tokura did not stand a chance. He began to tear at the seams, his bones crushed and lengthened, muscles tore out of his skin and exoskeleton and hardened at the same moment. Eventually, his height doubled. So many years of imprisonment and hatred made Krika forget his own name, but one thing was on his mind every second: the body, the one he dreamed of tearing into pieces, and it was torn apart. The new Makuta was unstoppable. There is simply nothing that can compare to his power, and Teridax's main battalion has been completely absorbed. In the end, the fastest Towa, Pohatu, responded to the terrible sounds, and calling out to Tokura, he called to himself a monster for a name for himself. Makuta Tokura was a perfect name, for the former Krika knew it must have been the name that had been given to the body long ago. Makuta wondered what it would be like to feed energy directly from the first component reactor. Thus began the race to the death. Pohatu shot boulders at Makuta Tokura, tried to concrete it in the sand, but Makuta was too fast and strong. At the last moment, Pohatu lifted 2 huge masses of the Powahi desert to pin Tokura, but he, jumping over kilometers of vertical surfaces, flees out of them and jumps from the outer surface of the massives towards Pohatu, who at that moment was already running to call for help. He dug into him with his claws, beginning to decay, but accidentally reached the reactor directly, which stopped it from working. Unable to withstand such a blow on ether energy alone, Pohatu breathed his last. Makuta Tokura was confused, but the desire to hurt everything that exists on this planet overpowered his crazy head, and all he had done in response is to his mask. The mask changed yet again, like how it did, progressing and decaying at the same time, which provoked Makuta Tokura even more, grieving at his own power. He heads out to find another tormentor, Teridax. Krika was imprisoned for years of torture in an attempt to create a body for this power-hungry misanthrope. He searched the entire island of Voyanui, sought out every last Makuta in an attempt to shake out information about Teridax's secret base, but no one answered, which meant death for them. And only when he returned to Teridax did he free his old friend, the renegade Miserix, from captivity. He had his own partisan, Gorast. She was killed by by Kopaka along with Tokura, but she managed to find the location, the island of Matanui, an abandoned branch of underground tunnels of the Mangai volcano, bridging Onokoro and Takoro on a slope towards Tawahi. These events were also described in posts on my Instagram. Read my posts for Tokura and recent posts featuring the Blade of Decay. There you can also find out the next events that will be described in the next episode, but for now, to be continued.